Hey guys, this is Lacy, and this is a Spirit Away redraw that I did a while ago. And I just thought I'd make a little sped up video and show you guys my process for painting over my sketchbook drawings digitally. So to start out, I just took a photograph with my phone and did some levels on it here in Photoshop. And just to make it look nice and get the whites real white. And then right now I'm doing a selective color filter, which allows me to make the red pencil not quite so red, make it a little more muted so that it doesn't affect the skin tones quite so much. And so what I did was with that filter, I put a mask over it, a layer mask, and I just filled the whole canvas with black on the mask. And now I'm just using a white paintbrush to select the areas that I want to be able to see. And to get this cool red overlay where you can really see where your mask is when it's something as subtle as this, you can hit the backslash button. I find it really handy for masks like this. And it looks like I doubled up that mask. Good choice, because it wasn't doing quite enough. You'll see that I'm putting my color layers inside a group. That group is set to multiply. Groups by default are set to pass through. And if you set them to multiply, the whole thing acts like one big multiply layer. Whereas normally if you set all the individual layers to multiply, you can see the layers through each other. So this way, it makes it a lot easier to lay in these big block shapes. And because Photoshop treats this group as a chunk of data before applying the multiply, you can put layers under other layers and you don't have to worry about butting things up against each other perfectly like you might whenever you're painting on a single layer. Gives you some options. Another really useful thing to do, which I just saw myself do, is to separate the different objects or people that you are painting into their own groups within that group. So I have a Haku group, a Chihiro group, and a background group right now. And I will put all of the layers for each of those things in their respective groups. It makes it a lot easier to find your layers when you do it this way. Instead of searching through 100 layers for that tiny little envelope it's actually a letter, I think, that I'm about to paint, I can just click through about 6 and it's just on, off, on, off, on, off. Oh, there it is, instead of doing that for the rest of your life. So when I'm at this point in working on something, I'm really just trying to get down the shapes and colors quickly. I'm not really refining it much. I'm just, trying to get it down in a nice way. I might do a little bit of refinement, but not too much, too crazy. Just filling in those shapes that I've already laid out in that sketch. When I do this, it makes it a lot easier to see the next step. I just try to get down as much information as I can easily, and then I will go in and adjust things. Like this little green thing here, the stripe on her shirt. I didn't like the color of it. It is on the same layer as that white, so I used the magic wand to select it. And then I went through and did a hue saturation adjustment on it, which is another useful thing you can do. I just saw a hole in her face and I fixed it, thank goodness. So right about now, I am deciding that I'm not a huge fan of the way her eyes look, and I'm gonna fix it. But first I realize you can't see the reference image I'm using. So we're gonna fix that right about now. Okay, now onto those eyes. You may say, Lacy, how are you gonna fix that? It's on the photograph. Well, that's what Photoshop is for, guys. It's for editing photographs. So I'm just gonna create a layer right above that background layer, which is the photograph. And I'm gonna use the eyedropper tool set on current and below. And I am going to just pick that paper white color and paint over the photograph where I don't want to see the pencil lines. And then I'm going to pick the color of a dark spot on the pencil and use that to draw in some new lines as well. I use the HD Real Pencil brush to do this from the Kyle's Drawing Box, which you can get free with Photoshop now, by the way. You used to have to pay for it way back when. But you just click on more brushes in Photoshop and it takes you right to it. You can get the mega pack. It's crazy. I actually don't know that that's all of the Kyle brushes, but it's a good number of them and they work really well. It's all the ones I had before. You might notice that I have a miniature version of what I'm working on up there in the corner along with my reference. That is so I can see how my changes are affecting the overall piece, the whole thing. You can get the same effect with a magnifying glass for traditional art. Also, I just want to remind you that there's no cheating in art. You can do anything. Make it as easy as possible on yourself so that you can create as much as your heart desires. Do it the way that's fun for you. Don't worry about doing it the right way or the way that you're supposed to. See, look at me. I just squished his eyes and changed the shape of him because I felt like his head was too wide. And then I'm using the healing brush. I'm not even painting that back in. I'm just using the healing brush to fix the underneath the photo. And it works. And next I'm gonna go in and do shadows the easiest way I know how to. And that is with lavender on a multiply layer. So inside our multiply group, a clipping mask on the Haku group with a layer, set to multiply, paint lavender on it. And you magically have shadows. Lavender makes great shadows. Sometimes you need to mess with the opacity, but you can make some really great shadows with lavender. This works with markers too sometimes. You gotta have the right lavender. Very, very light. Very soft. But it makes great shadows and it works on almost any color. I don't think I've run into any color that it doesn't work on set to multiply like this. This is like my favorite way to do shadows. It's amazing. And look, I've decided I don't like the shape of her mouth. So here I adjusted the shape of the painted in color first to see so I could get it how I thought it would look right. And then I'm using that as a guide to draw around, which is great. Using the same method as earlier, down on that lower layer, just picking up the white, picking up the pencil color, doing what you need to with them. And now I am apparently lost in the layers, but I'm putting in a solid color layer. And I am setting it to somewhere between 10 and 20% opacity on a normal layer. I feel like this really just helps to bring the colors together. Next, I am putting a layer mask on the whole group because I want to make sure it looks all nice and tidy at the edges. We just put that huge fill layer on there and we want to make sure it's not affecting our photograph and make sure everything's just contained. We don't want anything to affect the photograph and make it look less real. And here I'm experimenting with the blushing on Chihiro's cheeks. I used one brush and I wasn't happy, so I went in with a different one. And then I put a little bit of a Gaussian blur on it to give it a nice soft look. And I went ahead and did that on Haku too, because everybody needs blushing. It's what makes people look alive. If you don't have pink cheeks, you might be dead. Who knows? And now I'm adding some highlights. I do it similar to the shadows, where I paint onto a layer that is set to a clipping mask on the group that I'm working on. I use a very, 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 very light yellow, like butter, and I set it to soft light, and then I adjust the opacity. And sometimes I use a Gaussian blur on it. Right now what I'm doing is I have duplicated my shadow layers, and on one of those duplicated layers I am going in and I'm erasing some of the shadows so that we have a lighter shadow and a darker shadow, giving it some more depth. And I decided I didn't want to draw all the little leafy things in the background, so I just went in with a halftone brush and gave a bit of a background, and then cleaned up the bottom, and there we have it. There it is. It's done. The finished product. Thanks for hanging out with me while I narrated this sped up drawing video. This is the first one I've ever done, so I hope it's good. I hope you guys like it. I know I haven't posted any videos, and this is really different from what I usually make. I guess what I do now is really different. I've changed a lot of things. So I really do hope you guys like this, and I guess I should plug my new stuff, ? I have an Instagram, which I am much more active on now than really anything else, and it's at Lacy Rayanne. And I have an Etsy shop where I sell some stickers and some t-shirts. It is buttercuts.etsy.com, and the stickers are pretty cool, if I do say so myself. I've used some of them on some of my stuff. So I really hope you guys like this video. I really like to draw, and I would like to make some more. So I hope you have a happy quarantine. Bye.